Hi and welcome. I'm really excited to have Lindsey Byrne with me today. And we're going to chat all about brain health. So brain health is a real passion of mine, and it's something I think every woman of about 40 and over should be really focusing on. Because certainly the statistics show that it's more prevalent in women than men. And so unfortunately, as women, we're more likely to develop things like dementia later in life. So, Lindsey is a functional medicine certified health coach, and she helps people to improve their brain health and memory, prevent dementia, and even improve symptoms with the dementia diagnosis. So, thanks for joining us, Lindsey. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you ended up being a cognitive health coach?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Georgina. Thanks for having me today. I'm very excited to be here. Um, so, um, my mum has Alzheimer's, and initially, when we first noticed some changes to her memory, I just thought there was nothing you could do. I Googled it, and there's no cure. So we gave up and just sat back to see what happened. And then and just by coincidence, I met somebody in an online forum actually who
Mm.
said he was working on his symptoms of Alzheimer's. Well, you can imagine, I was
Okay.
really surprised, and I was like, "What?" Anyway, he we had a chat. He told me his story. It's quite a harsh story in a way. He noticed the symptoms in his 30s,
Oh,
and he
that's
had to give up
early.
his job in his mid 40s because he couldn't hide it anymore. And I was meeting him in his mid 50s, and he'd pretty much turned it around in the previous 3 years. And he shared with me lots of clinical trial data and some books by some doctors and some video interviews of those doctors. And I just got really excited, got
Mm.
my mum on the protocol. She improved. Everyone noticed. And I just thought, well, this is obvious. This is my new career in life. This is what I should be doing. So I trained first of all with the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, as you mentioned.
Mm.
And then I did the Alzheimer's specialism, which is called Recode Health Coaching,
Right.
reversal of cognitive decline, Recode. Uh, and now I help. It's been about 3 years since I qualified, and now I help people like me with parents with dementia,
Mm.
not too many symptoms or even no symptoms at all, but just want to prevent.
Yeah.
Um, right up through people who are noticing some change to their memory, and sometimes that's to do with menopause, sometimes that's post-infection like long COVID, or sometimes they think that is that normal aging, or is it something a bit worse?
Mm.
Right up to people with a dementia diagnosis. I mean, the earlier you catch it, the better the results, obviously.
Absolutely. But it's never too late to make a healthy
No,
change.
no, and this is what I always say, it's never too soon to start, because
Yeah.
the things we're doing right now will have an impact on us cognitively in up to 20 or 30 years. So it's
Yeah.
never too soon to start, but equally never too late either.
Agreed, agreed. And whereas I'm a functional nutritionist, Lindsay, you're a functional health coach, and there's some very obvious differences between what we do.
Yes,
And so when I work with clients, I'm sort of providing testing and analysis and trying to help them understand the root cause of symptoms.
yes.
And then I will give them some nutrition and lifestyle advice to go away with. What I don't do as much is help with the implementation of that. And that's where you come into your own, really, isn't it? So you help, the client people you work with really implement guidance and make sure that it fits into their lives and that it's sustainable. So along those lines, Lindsay, if I was to start to make my diet more brain friendly without overhauling everything at once, what would you recommend that I do?
So a lot of clients need to start with teeny tiny steps.
Hmm.
And this is why a nutritionist and a health coach working together can be a really good team for
Yeah.
our clients, because you know what they need to do, but it can seem a lot. It can seem quite overwhelming. So when I work with a client, obviously I'd be advised by you
Mm.
what you really want the client to focus on. But equally, I will take the client's needs into account as well. So it may be that you give them a long list of things to do, and we look at perhaps what would be easiest for them to start with, what would be a really
Mm.
quick win. Or, the client might say, no, I want to do the thing that will have the biggest impact first. So we'll decide between us what's going to help them the most. So it really is a bespoke approach. Um, but you're asking me actually what should the listeners to this maybe do? And I would say start cutting down on sugar as much as you can. And that doesn't necessarily mean replacing it with artificial sugars either. If
Yeah.
you can start, I mean, wherever there is sugar in your diet, if you can start to cut down a little bit, tiny bit at a time. And there are healthier replacements out there. So if you really can't give up, if you've got a real sweet tooth, then monk fruit or stevia tend to be the most healthy. Obviously, I would defer to you on that. That's really your game.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you know, I'm always talking to people about how replacing sugar with natural sugars is
Yes,
it has got so I'm talking more along the lines of like honey and maple syrup here.
yeah,
Whereas they do have more nutritional benefit, they're still
yes,
sugar. So they're
mm,
still going to have the same sort of effect really on the body.
yes,
So yeah, I agree with what you're saying, sort of cutting down gradually. I
yes.
find that people don't actually really notice that they're cutting down on sugar in tea or coffee, for instance, if they just do it half a teaspoon at a time.
Exactly that. That is exactly what I did. I mean, that was many years ago before I even got into this game.
Yeah.
I'm probably in my early 20s. I decided to cut down on sugar. It had been growing and building up and building up, and I just cut it down half a teaspoon at a time.
Yeah.
And then when I got to half a teaspoon, I went to quarter, and I was getting down to like a couple of grains. So whatever the client needs.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's about cutting out, but also sometimes it's about adding.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't start by cutting anything out. Maybe we start by adding some extra non-starchy vegetables or some healthy
Yeah.
fats, whatever would be beneficial for them. And
Mm.
actually adding things just feels so different than constricting, restraining, cutting down. So that
Yeah.
that can be a great approach as well.
Yeah, no, I would 100% agree with that approach. And what I would also say is fantastic about cutting out sugar, apart from like the more stable energy and mood and all of those sort of more immediate benefits, is that your taste buds will start to come back.
Yeah.
So, things that you didn't find sweet, like raspberries or, low sugar fruits, berries, etc., suddenly start to taste amazing.
Yes.
And all of that has been masked by this sugar that we've had in our diet. I just find it amazing, really. So just continuing on from that. So I'm always in talking to my clients about the importance of having a good breakfast.
Mm.
And so I really believe that we should eat like kings for breakfast. And if we get it right, if we have a nutrient dense, balanced breakfast, it really sets us up for the whole day. And can really help to sort of reduce all those dips in energy and mood. So, how would I adjust my breakfast to include more brain boosting nutrients? So I'm thinking things like choline or antioxidants, which we know are really beneficial for the brain.
Yes, definitely. So, choline, eggs are great for choline, and that's good protein as well. So, and it keeps us fuller for longer. So, if you like eggs for
Mm.
breakfast are a great choice. Obviously, we probably need to mix it up a bit. Nobody wants to get bored. There's lots of good nutrition reasons why we need to mix it up as well, but I'll leave that to you. But yeah, if we mix it up a bit as well. So maybe some mornings having a smoothie. So you
Mm.
could get some good non-starchy vegetables in there. You could sweeten it with some lovely berries. And anything that is blue, black, or purple tends to be really good for the brain. So
Does.
blueberries are great. Um, and maybe add a little bit of yogurt, a nice BioLive natural yogurt
Mm.
would really creamy that up, but also give us gut bugs, something that they love as well. Um, yeah, so there are lots of different choices. When I'm working with a client, I tend to start with what do you like to eat? and we
Yeah.
just make ingredient tweaks so that it's really comfortable for them. I don't like to take away anybody's favorite meal. So,
Yes, really
I mean, sometimes
important.
a client might come to me and say they love cereal. Um,
Hmm.
mm.
Difficult one.
So, I mean, there are keto-based cereals out there that are very much more around nuts
Yeah.
and, got healthy, slow burn ingredients in there. So we could try something like that as an intermediate step as
Yeah.
well. So that would also give us a bit of protein to get us started, and some healthy fats in there as well. So, um, because you're the nutritionist, you know what people should be eating, but
Yeah.
really it's all about the behavior change, isn't it? It's what we
Yeah.
used to, it's what gives us comfort,
Mm.
it's maybe what our mother gave us. It may be around food, I mean, not necessarily around breakfast, but things that we see as a celebration,
Yeah.
or things that have particular memories for us. Working on stuff like that, um we can't take those things away, but if we can make little ingredient swaps, so you're still getting the joy of that food,
Mm.
but with some slightly healthier ingredients, that's a really great.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting where you are, essentially, is what you're
Yes.
saying, isn't it?
Yeah,
Start where you are, and make small changes so that they feel enjoyable.
exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. And actually, on that note, I have a brain healthy granola recipe on my
Oh,
website, actually.
excellent. Yes, let's
Uh,
use that then.
so that actually goes right along with what you're saying, but it's full of nuts and I think it's actually got dried cranberries in it.
Excellent.
So, like lots of nice little brain boosting foods. I was going to ask you more about how do we introduce more antioxidants into our diet, but you've already explained how we do that with a smoothie,
Hmm.
which is a really great way to do it. But how else would you suggest people get more of these antioxidants in, such as berries and leafy green vegetables, because we just know they're so good for the brain.
Yes, they are. I mean, they are really so good for the brain. And the end point that I'd like to see people working towards would be to have at least half a plate of non-starchy veggies as part of their meal. Um, and we already talked about adding some berries and things. I mean, they're lovely,
Mm.
sweet things. So,
Mm.
if we're cutting down on sugar, that's a great swap to keep us happy. If you're already eating a processed, fruity, sweet yogurt,
Mm.
then try some lovely fruit, some lovely berries in a BioLive yogurt, and we'll get there. One of the things that some clients sometimes say to me is that they're not very keen on vegetables.
Yep.
Now, I love a vegetable, but I mean, to get more vegetables into my husband, I chop them up and hide them in things.
Yep.
So, depending on what foods you like to eat, if a client says to me, "Oh, we love spaghetti bolognese,"
Mm.
I would be working on, can we just reduce the amount of meat in that sauce down a little bit, or maybe make the same amount, but the same amount of meat, but
Yeah.
add so many more vegetables.
Yeah.
Now you've got 4 portions instead of two. You've got two lunches set aside
Yeah.
for next week or for later in the week. So, if you're making like a bolognese sauce, a ragu, a
Mm.
risotto, or anything like that, you can be chopping up carrots and celery, and obviously it probably already had onions in there. But you could add peas or sweet corn. You can chop up, peppers are probably already in there anyway.
Yeah.
But you can really bulk out the meal with a lot of veggies. And my husband's quite well behaved now, actually. He does eat a lot of veggies. But early days when we were first together, I was
Mm.
chopping carrots up so tiny. And he used to make curries from scratch, and he loves a curry. And his argument was always, well, you can't put all these vegetables in a curry. That's not right. That's not the curry. And I used to just chop it up really fine so we didn't even notice.
Yeah.
But that's a great way to start adding things if you're making curries or chilies or ragus or stews or soups, just pack way more veggies in. And
Yeah, that's actually what we do. We put I think we put all of those things you just said just about into our spaghetti bolognese.
yes.
But we also put mushrooms in. I think mushrooms go well in
Yes, of
it
course,
too.
mushrooms. And I'm thinking, did I say celery?
Yeah,
I was trying to
celery.
go through
Yeah,
my
that
food. I was
goes
trying to think
in.
about my chopping board when I'm making something. What's on the chopping board? So many. And mushrooms, so good for the brain.
Yeah.
And a bit of protein in there as well. All really good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think sometimes it's the texture of things, isn't it, that people don't
Yes.
like. So it's sometimes
Yeah,
if you can change the texture, you can still get something into someone. So this is where I
exactly.
guess smoothies work for some people, or soups, anything where you can sort of change the texture.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I myself, I didn't used to like the texture of mushrooms. I don't mind the taste, but the
Mm.
texture, anything a little bit sort of that strikes me as slimy.
They have an interesting texture, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to just chop them up really tiny and put them in things. I mean, even if I had a breakfast that included some mushrooms, I'd chop them up really tiny, maybe
Yeah.
do them in a little bit of butter with some pepper on. And I can handle that texture because they're chopped up. So
Mm.
sometimes it's just about finding the change in texture. Oh, with the bolognese as well, one thing I wanted to sort of mention. So I really love doing courgette instead of spaghetti. So just
Okay.
spiralizing some courgette first, and then just plonking the bolognese on that. Because let's face it, the pasta is just there as a carrier for the sauce, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
You
bit
know,
bland, really,
you don't
isn't
want
it?
it, it's bland. So why not, take the
Use it.
opportunity to use another vegetable? Or, for example, if you're doing a curry or some such, what
Mm.
about some cauliflower rice instead of rice?
Yeah, these are great suggestions as well, and really good for anyone who needs to cut down on the amount of sort of starchy carbohydrates in their diet as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
Okay, great. So, as a nutritionist, when I think of a brain healthy diet, I'm thinking about the importance of things like healthy fats, such as oily fish and nuts and seeds, olive oil, things like that. Because as we know, the brain is largely made up of fat. So along those lines, are there any meal plans or resources that you tend to recommend to your clients so that they can sort of follow a brain healthy diet more closely?
So, I must admit, generally with my clients, I do tend to start with what are you eating now when we
Yeah.
make tweaks and move forward. If somebody does come to me and ask me for a particular resource, there's a couple of recipe books that are quite good. Josh Axe does a nice keto book, and Max Lugavere does the Genius Kitchen. So there's a couple of recipe books. Um, but generally, I tend to just Google for recipes.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to make something with more oily fish, I mean, I'm a health coach. I've got to admit, oily fish and me are not the best friends. I love salmon, but other oily fish is a bit of a challenge to me. And last night we had some fish cakes made with sardines. And do you know what I
Okay.
actually did? I just Googled um, sardine fish cakes that don't taste too fishy.
Okay, yeah, great.
And a recipe popped up. And I just thought, do you know what? That's genius.
Mm.
The ingredients that they put in it sort of take away a little bit from the fish being the main flavor. They were absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
So we can share that recipe if you like. We can put
Yeah,
that
that's a good idea.
in the
We'll put
notes if
it,
you
we'll put
like.
it in the notes.
But they were lovely. It worked really well.
That's good. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think I'm a bit like you really. So if I was working with somebody, there's not a lot of resources I tend to give them because I think it's so important for somebody to just take what they've got and adjust that. So
Yes.
that's really what we're saying, isn't it? That
Yeah, absolutely.
rather than people used to come to me and say, "I would need a pile of recipes and a meal plan for the week." I don't do that, and you obviously don't do that, really, do you? Because
If somebody asked me for it, I would do that
yeah,
research and I would find that for them. Most people don't ask me for it,
mm,
because I think most of us have been there, haven't we? We've tried multiple diets, we've bought the books, we've tried to follow the meal plans. There's things in there that we don't like,
doesn't work,
and
does it?
it's not going to stick, is it? And I just feel like uprooting your whole lifestyle and doing something else that
Mm,
somebody else thought was good.
yes,
It's not going to stick. Whereas making those tiny changes,
yeah,
that's the way to make it stick because those tiny changes are almost imperceptible. They embed really quickly. Then we can move on to the next change and just
yeah,
build up slowly over time. And before you know it, you're looking back thinking, wow, look at this healthy meal I'm eating.
yeah, great. And do you track certain nutrients or meals to ensure that people are meeting these brain healthy goals? Like, how do you check in with clients to say, the changes you're making are enough, for instance.
Yes, I do. So I've there's a system, an app called
Mm.
Chronometer. There's no H in
Okay.
that. It's Chronometer, just with a CRO, chronometer.com. It's absolutely free, and you can log all your foods in it. And I tend to say to people, don't do it every day because, I don't want to take over their life with admin. But I tend to say, when I meet a client for the first time, I'll say, just fill that in for 4 days so I've got an idea of what you generally eat.
Mm.
And then as we're making tweaks to the diet, I might ask them to do 4 days of filling that in per month. Now you can actually put recipes in. So if it's something you do regularly, you can put the recipe in and then it's very easy to log that food. And it's easy to tweak that recipe as we make the changes to it. But the great thing about that app is I'm guessing lots of your listeners will be familiar with MyFitnessPal as that
Yes.
sort of idea of logging your food.
Yeah.
Problem with MyFitnessPal, they've opened it up for everyone and anyone can log meals. And some people are only logging in the calories in an ingredient, or they're
Yes.
only logging the macros, the protein, fats, and carbs in an ingredient.
Mm.
Whereas Chronometer, they're much more careful, and everything on there shows you all the micronutrients as well. So when I'm working with a client, if we're working towards, for example, ketosis, I will put in some macros for them, specifically for them, tailored to their needs. And then as they log their food, it's very straightforward. It just comes up with little color barcode charts so you can see how you're doing against those macros every
Mm.
day. And I quite like to use it for planning. So if you've had something for lunch, and let's say your carbs are a bit high, but your fats are a bit low, then you know what to pick for dinner, something with higher fat and lower carbs. But what Chronometer also does, it lists all your micronutrients, so all your vitamins, all your minerals. And so over time, you can start to see if there's any deficiencies in your diet. And then we can talk about good food sources of those. Or
Yeah,
if it's
which is
looking
important.
like it might be an issue, of course, they'd be talking to you about should I be testing for this to see if there is a deficiency? And then you might be supplementing around that.
Yeah, yeah, or exactly. If we'd found something in a test which said you're low in iron or something, then prioritizing iron-rich foods might be something that you would do. And so with this app, are you able to sort of introduce those foods? As in, are you able to sort of say you have a higher requirement for iron?
Yes, so I can't actually set a target for iron like I can with the macros,
Right.
but I'm trying to think because you can with things like fiber, you can adjust your. Generally, I tend to adjust things like fiber with a
Yep.
client, so that is something I do tend to adjust because
Yeah,
most people do not get enough fiber.
that's right.
But you can absolutely keep your eye on it. So you can rate, although it gives you a long list of all of the micronutrients, you can actually prioritize a few to come up in a bit just under the macros.
Okay, great.
So you can see how you're doing. So even if I were not able to increase the iron target,
Mm,
you could say we're looking for you to achieve 120% of that pie chart.
right, I
So
see.
at least you know. So there would definitely be a workaround if you
That
couldn't.
sounds like a really useful tool,
Yeah,
because I think it's so important to see progress and to be able to track what you're doing is, what you're meant to be doing, I suppose. And the
exactly,
food that you're
exactly.
eating is hitting those targets.
And
So,
as I say, I like to only do it for a few days at
yeah.
a time so that it's not overwhelming or not too much admin effort. It
Mm,
does get a lot easier though, because as you build up recipes, it becomes very easy to just log those recipes. Um, but what I do find with clients is once they get used to a certain way of eating, they just intuitively know. And we get to
mm.
the point where maybe they log 4 days and you look at it and you just think that was perfect, you were bang on.
Yeah, I can
You
see
know,
you only need a snapshot, don't
and
you?
then we can leave it and then maybe they might plan to just retest it in 6 months time just to make sure they haven't drifted, but then we can drop that.
Great. That sounds really helpful. And we all know that staying hydrated is really important for brain function. So I think there's a statistic out there which says something like being hydrated by just 2% really impairs brain performance. So it's
Yes,
so
yes,
important to be
yeah.
well hydrated. Um, but I mean, I'm terrible at this actually. I often forget to drink water during the day, even though I know the importance of it, and I'm sure I have a lot of clients who are in the same boat.
Yes.
So, what strategies or habits can help me stay better hydrated for better brain function?
So what I do, I when I first get up in the morning, I have some water straight away while the kettle's boiling. I drink some water straight away, and I fill up a pint glass. I mean, this has actually got some elderberry tincture in it because I've got a bit of a strep infection at the moment, so I don't want anyone to think I'm
Okay.
drinking Coke. But what I do is I get a pint glass of water. So I drink some water first thing while I'm boiling the kettle. I come back up to my office with a pint of water and an herbal tea, for example. And I'll probably drink the herbal tea first because, well, it's hot. But then I'm not allowed to because I'm a tea addict. So I'm not allowed to get myself another tea until I've drunk all the water.
Oh, right. So you're sort of, it's like a carrot, sort of carrot
Exactly.
and a
So you
stick
can do deals with
situation.
yourself. I mean, the other thing to do maybe is to just ensure you top up your pint glass every time you go to the loo, for
Yeah.
example. Just to build habits, to stack habits on top of other habits. You have to go to the loo, you have to go and have a wee regularly during the day. So every time you go to the loo, just remember to go and fill your water up.
That's a
So
really good idea.
that's another sort of approach.
Yeah, it's a really
And I
good idea.
do find once you get into the habit of drinking more water, you are perpetually thirsty.
Yeah, so you're staying hydrated more often. Your brain's
Exactly.
sort of kicked in
Yeah, I
to tell
think
you you need it.
when we're not drinking water, I think we kind of get used to it and we don't notice how thirsty we are.
Hmm.
And then when we start drinking water, your body kind of thanks you for it and then starts asking for more. So right now I am quite thirsty. I'm on my second pint of the day and I'm quite thirsty. I could definitely down that right now, except I'm busy talking.
But maybe it's because with the better hydration, your brain's working better, so you've got better attention and better memory skills.
Yes, could
So
well
you
be, could
remember
well
you should
be.
drink more water. Okay, great. And so if I was to follow the recommendations that we've talked about today, what are realistic signs of cognitive improvement that I could notice in, say, the first few weeks of doing this?
Well, definitely the hydration will make a big difference. We all probably recognize if we've not drunk enough. The next morning, we might wake up with a headache,
Yeah.
might feel a bit, might feel a bit fuzzy-headed. And you might remember back in the day when you used to drink, maybe in your 20s, maybe drank a bit too much. You would be dehydrated the next day and you would feel awful and you would be foggy, brain foggy. So, of course, the hydration is going to make an impact straight away. I saw a study recently, which I'll try and dig out the link to so that you can share it with people,
Okay.
about how quickly eating blueberries affects cognitive function, and it was like within a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So
Really? A couple of
yeah.
hours? Wow.
Yes, so I've got to dig that study back out and find out remember where I saw it, and I'll share that with you for the listeners. So the little things will make a difference, actually, really quite quickly.
Mm.
Of course, some of my clients come to me with a dementia diagnosis,
Yeah.
and it really depends how early we catch it, but also how much of the protocol they're prepared to implement. So, I mean, Dr. Bredesen, who developed the RICO protocol, says that dementia is 100% preventable.
Mm.
With the earliest stages, it is 100% reversible. I mean, really early stages. And with mild cognitive impairment, like a diagnosis, according to his trials, he achieved 84% reversal.
Which is amazing, isn't it? I mean,
It is.
think
Now he's
about
got a
where
huge
people come
community.
from here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a huge community as well who log their cognitive test results and what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing.
Mm.
And in the community, so these people are all different levels. He's got a 50% improvement rate. So 50% of people show improvement. That is obviously not as good as the trial, because on the trial, everybody, I mean, they threw everything at them. They got them doing everything, and they got them a health
Right.
coach and
To
helped them
stick
do
at
it
it.
all.
Mm.
Whereas in the community, a lot of people are doing that DIY, but still 50%. So the
Well, yeah.
experience tells us
Mm.
how much you want to put into it will have the impact. For most of your listeners, I'm guessing we're talking about a bit of menopausal brain fog, and I can absolutely attest that I turned mine around. I've got a free cognitive test actually that
Have
you do
you?
online that
Mm.
I'll give you that your listeners can have a go at
Yeah.
and see how they're doing. And just to let you know, my cognitive results now are in the high 90s on every category. They weren't, most of them weren't far off, but executive function, I was down at 55%
Okay.
when I had my menopausal brain fog before I discovered all this and started doing some work myself.
Yeah, well, what I think is so inspiring about all the things you've just said there is that when people get these diagnoses or start getting the symptoms, as you alluded to in the beginning, people think there's nothing they can do about it. But you've just said there's at least 50% that you can do about it. You know,
Definitely.
there's
Yes.
quite a lot that's within our own power, really.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I think sometimes when people get these diagnoses or symptoms, there's a feeling of loss of control.
Mm.
And I think it's so important that people understand there's actually so much you can do. And
Exactly. And I also think there's a lot about what you focus on. You know, if
mm,
you focus on, oh my God, I've got dementia or mild cognitive decline, where's that going? It's going to be dementia. If you focus on that and you end up noticing every little thing you forget, and that is just weighing on your mind, and you're putting it in your little Alzheimer's bucket and carrying that Alzheimer's bucket with you, you're basically telling your brain that this is what you're expecting.
mm,
Now, what do you think your brain's going to do? It's actually going to give you what you expect. Whereas if you can focus on the positive and look to take control and make some changes and focus on the things that you are doing well and that you are remembering, then your brain will listen to that and work that way. Um, if you think about it, if you're always noticing the odd little things that you forget, that's what you're focusing on. It's building up a big picture for you. But what if that was 1% of things you're forgetting? You're not focusing on the 99% of things where you're functioning really well.
yeah.
So let's start focusing on those.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that's a great way to end this is your brain's a very powerful tool, isn't it?
Yes,
So, use it correctly, look after it, feed it, nourish it, etc. And that's what you're all about. So thank you very much for coming to speak to me today. I've really enjoyed this.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank
And
you.
and we'll have, like I say, we'll have some notes and all of the links and things to your website and any materials
Yes,
in the notes. So that's
exactly.
great.
Exactly. I have a free brain health guide, so lots of tips
Ooh.
available.
There we are, then that's a good starting point. Okay, thanks a lot, Lindsay. Nice to
Thank
see
you.
you. Bye.